Very warm greetings to one and all in the blessed name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Now let us turn to Joshua chapter 24. Joshua chapter 24. Just one verse, verse 15. Let me read to you again. Now here Joshua asked the people, "And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." May God bless the reading of His precious, preserved word. Now, do not forget, Joshua have just been used by God to list down how God has led them and their forefathers, all the way from their great-grandfather, the time of Abraham's father, to this generation, and that they are here now. And Joshua have also reminded them how the Lord has protected them all these hundreds of years. Protected. And not only that, provided for them. Things that they did not even work for themselves, yet God graciously just gave it to them. Things that they thought that they fought and worked for, God says, "It was also me that provided for you." So, why did God say all those things to them? We have studied. The reason is, "Then therefore, live in covenant with me." Live in covenant with me. So, it comes to this point. Having said, now, will you renew and commit to living in covenant with me? Then Joshua asked them, verse 15. It is time to choose, and that is the title for today. It is time to choose. You have heard all these things. Now, just like us, over the last few weeks, we've been, I hope, stirred in our hearts and remember, yes, it is true. The reason why I am in Perth, the reason why I ended up here, and when I look back, it was almost impossible. And all these years that I've been here, God have been keeping me all the time. My children, my grandchildren, they're all grown up now. And I never suffered loss. God has helped and protected and provided. And even when He allowed things that seemed to be calamities in my life, He always saw me through all those things till today. Then the question is this: have you chosen to serve Him? Have you chosen to serve Him? You know, it is easy to just go through all these things and sit back and say, yes, God is so good, God is so good, right? Children like to sing, God is so good to me, to me, to me. It's easy to go through all that. But Joshua now pushed them into a corner and said, with all those things that you have now come to realize, now I ask you, who are you going to choose to serve? Have you even thought that there must be a point of time, now I must choose. I must choose. Because we can be just simply living instinctively. Well, God, you help me? Thank you. Well, God, you provided for me? Thank you. And then we just go our own way. We just respond to life. No, all the things that God has done for us is to say, now you serve me. Live in covenant with me. Now look at verse 15. Look at verse 15. And if it seem evil to you to serve the Lord. Now the question is this: what is serve the Lord? What is serve the Lord? Now is Joshua talking to people who are the priests, serving in the temple? Well, priests, now you choose. You want to serve the temple of God, Jehovah, or you want to serve the temple of the false gods of the land? Or is he talking to the elders and the rulers and say, well, you have to serve, you have to take care of these people in Israel. So there are much things for you to do, so serve. Or is he talking to people who have been given things to do for the temple or for certain areas in the nation? So all those in service, I'm talking to you. Is it referring only to those people who have something to do in the temple, as leaders. So if that were the case, then many of us here will say, well, this message is for full-time workers who are called to serve God. This message is and this challenge is for committee members in church. This message is for people who are given tasks to do in church. It's for those who are served. And you have to choose, who you want to serve. What does it mean when God says you have to choose whether you want to serve, verse 15, the Lord, or serve the gods of your fathers, or serve the gods of the Amorites? What does it mean then to serve? When you are asked, it is time to choose to serve God. What does it mean to serve God? Now, to serve a God in the minds of the people even back then, what does it mean to serve a God or serve gods in the land? Now, it means to take this God as authority in your life. It means this is the God that I will worship. This is the God that I will follow. This is the God that I will obey when He gives me commandments. This is a God that I will offer things to. So when we say serve, who will you serve? God is not saying only if you have duties in church. This message applies to you. No, to serve a God or to serve your God, and especially for Jehovah. Whenever He says, you want to serve me, what does it mean? It is not just doing things. Now, it means to take Him as the supreme and only authority. Now, this is for every believer. It is not only for those who have been assigned tasks in church. For every believer, you say, I choose to become a Christian. I choose to serve this God. That is what it means. It means I choose Him as ultimate authority in my life. And it also means then I belong to Him. So He's saying, you want to belong to Jehovah or you want to belong to these gods? So when a people say, I want to serve this God, means we take this God as our authority, and we belong to Him. That is why God always talk about the covenantal people, a people. Always the concept of a people, the belonging. So He said, I want to be a Christian. Means you want to belong to Christ. That is what it means to serve God. So it means for every Christian sitting here, as long as you say, I own Jesus as my God, then I serve Him. What else? Now it means that you will therefore obey His every commandment. So it's not just, all right, for people who are in committee. No. If you're a Christian and you own Him as your God, means every of His commandment I will obey. That is serving Him. That is serving Him. Of course, in the commandments, it includes actual service, but being a witness for Him, obeying Him to be Christ-like. All the commandments given to you, because I have called you my God, I will serve you. Means I will obey everything that you say. So it's for every Christian, young or old. So the teens don't misinterpret that and say, oh, this is for the adults. The adults have to choose now, No, as long as you say, I want to be a Christian, I am a Christian, then I serve this God. Then I obey every of His commandments. And school, for you at work, for the adults, for the singles, in your personal life, for the family, in your family life, we will obey everything that He said. That is what you mean when you say, I want to serve this God. Now, not only that, to serve a God means you will do only that which is His pleasure. Only that which is His pleasure. This is my God. And therefore, I want to please Him. I want to exalt Him. I want to glorify Him. That is what it means. Why is the chief end of men to glorify God? For the Christian. Why is it? Because you serve Him, therefore you glorify Him. So, last week we learned what is service. What is a servant? Right? A servant is one who by definition lives under a master and enjoy the benefits from him. So a servant is cared for by a master. But he uses everything that the master gives to him to do only what the master commands and what the master wishes. That is the meaning of a servant. So you say, I want to serve God. Means I look at this, or I'm a servant. I look at this person, he's my master. Whatever he wants, I quickly and happily go and do it for him. That's the meaning of serve a master, serve a God. So serve a God means I do not live for myself. I do not live for my aims. I do not live for my own personal purposes and choices and pursuits. I only keep asking, what does God want for my life? What does God want me to do in my life? Known commandments and personal guidance, say, that is the only thing that I want to do. Even if it means it is unpleasant, uncomfortable, but because I serve this God, I will happily follow him. Just now we sang, right? Wherever he leads, I'll go. That is the meaning of, I want to serve this God. Whatever he points me to for my life, I will do it. Even if it's been my dream all along to take this path, but God now shows me that it's not his will, well, I serve this God. What do you want me to do? So that is service. Now, ultimately, then, to serve a God is to do everything for his glory alone. Only for his glory. You only exalt him. You do not exalt yourself. Because I serve this God means I want him to be magnified. And I want to lift him up in the eyes of men. So now this is every Christian's duty. Not just those who are in full-time ministry, not just those in session, church session, in the board or in committees. It's for every Christian. So the challenge given is to the people. As long as you are Jehovah's people, do you choose to live like that for Jehovah or for the gods of the land? Which one would you choose? So ultimately, the Christian must know, I have benefited all my life from God. I must begin to ask myself this question. I've been just going through life, just floating through life, taking life as it comes. No, I need to choose that I will love, I will serve, I will follow, I will obey this God or the idols in my heart. You have to make a choice. So here, Joshua is pushing them into a corner to say that to them. Now, a life of obedience is a life of service. Do not forget that. Don't just keep thinking people who are given duties in church, they are so lucky, they have service. No, a life of obeying God's commandment is where it begins. People who serve a God obeys this God. So obeying God is your service. You have to choose who you want to obey. Now then, is your flesh and your spirit totally given over to worship and obey this God? Have you ever thought of that? Because many of us, we avoid choosing. Yes, I must live this way. I must worship God. I must obey him. But you know, there are many things that I love in this world as well. I intend to also keep them. I don't want to think about choosing. Now, why is this so? Why is this so? Now, look at how Joshua approached them in verse 15. He begins this way. Before he asks them about making a choice, he says this, "And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord." I put it the other way, all right? What does it mean to serve the Lord? We already said just now. Verse 15. "And if it seem evil unto you to worship and obey him." Does it seem evil to you? The reason why Joshua now at this point told them, you have to choose. Joshua knew that in some of their hearts, there it seemed evil to them to worship and obey Jehovah alone. That is why he asked them this question. Now, if it seemed evil to you, Joshua would not choose these words if he did not know that somewhere inside them, this thing is already changing in them. Now, in fact, you would see, look at verse, let me see. Verse 22, all right? Now he said, now you are witnesses that you will serve him. Now look at verse 23. Now therefore put away, said he, the strange gods which are among you, and incline your heart unto the Lord God of Israel. The strange gods which are among you. Joshua was disappointed with them. That is why I say you have to choose now. They had idols among them. You say, what? I thought this was a good generation. You see, they have now dwelt in the land. But the gods of the Amorites that were still in the houses, that were still in the land, they did not do much about it. Maybe they looked at it and say, oh, these are quite nice. Well, these idols, wow, the shape, the design, the color, the materials. And then they began to think. Now, the Amorite gods, they are well known. They are well known, and two well-known gods for them. There's an umbrella for all, according to archaeology. One is the god of the mountain, all right? God of the mountain. And his wife is the goddess of the flatlands. So together, worshipping them means we will be safe in this Canaan land. So that is how the Amorites always felt. As long as the God of the mountain, you see, covers everything, high and low, we are covered, we are safe. So now they began to think, we are staying, and this is how Joshua said it, the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell in. Why did he want to say in whose land you dwell in? Because they began to think, if we dwell in their land, then their God is quite important, right? Their God, which has been helping them all this while, and Amorites at this time, they were very influential in this area. They were considered as very powerful, rich, successful group of people, and also very vicious, right? So to them, he said, now you dwell in their land, so you think you need their gods. You have to choose. It's the same for us today. We live in this world. We may think this world is not my home, I'm just a passing through, I'm strangers, I'm pilgrims, and so all that kind of thing. But deep in our heart, God knows, we still fear the gods of this land. We still revere them, we still honor them. We feel that we need to serve them as well. The gods of success, the gods of money, the gods of health, the gods of prosperity, the gods of affluence, the gods of pleasure. Now, if I don't live the way the people of the land live and trust in the things that the people of the land trust in, for them they're gods. If I don't trust, if I put God first, if I seek God's kingdom first, if I neglect some of these things, the extra classes, the extra overtime work, the extra, and I go to church and I serve Him and I follow Him and I obey Him, I think it will not work out, We may not survive in this land. So Joshua was very disappointed. He said, now if it seems evil to you, what is evil? What does it mean, evil? Now, this word can mean troublesome. It means inconvenient. Right? So sometimes say, this thing is just so evil, so troublesome, evil. So the word is used to mean troublesome, a burden, a heavy weight. That is how this word is also used for, a burden. It is used to also mean not worth it, of no use, evil, no use. It can mean grievous. This thing is so evil, so grievous to me, so painful to me. So when you begin to know what Joshua is asking them, do you think it is evil to only worship, serve, and obey Jehovah He is saying, if it seems so displeasing to you, so troublesome, right? And even injurious, harmful, that's why it's evil. It harms me, actually. So you think it is displeasing, harmful, troublesome, not good, not beneficial. It vexes you, grieves you. Therefore, you grumble and complain. Aren't we like that? We may, on one sense, say, wow, God is so good, God did this for me, God did that for me. But at the same time, in our heart, obeying God and worshiping Him and obeying Him only and following all His ways is actually quite inconvenient and troublesome for me. We have to ask ourselves, we have to choose. We have to come a point of time where in our heart you say, no, this serving God, obeying Him and worshiping Him alone is not displeasing. I think if we are honest, if we still have the idols of the world that we feel that we need to depend on and we need to trust in rather than in God alone, we have to be honest that when we understand the word evil, we have to say, yes, I have been thinking that it is evil to serve God. You say, Pastor, no, how can we? I'm Christian. I come to church. I love God. I don't think it's evil. But if evil means all these things, and if you're honest, I think we have to say, yes, Joshua is right. I think it's evil to worship and obey Jehovah only and say, I cannot have other gods in my life. Now, what are some examples, for example, that we think it is evil, without us wanting to admit it? Now, on Friday, we learned, right, how to overcome sin, the fleshly lusts, how to abstain from it. If we truly want to live for God, means obey Him, live holy and godly lives, means to serve Him, then we have to live holy lives, abstain. And many of us are not willing to abstain. So I said, well, if internet is your weakness and it has become an addiction to you and cause you to fall, would you cut off subscription? Many of you didn't think of cutting off subscription. And when I suggested that, did you think, wow, this is so extreme? Don't have internet. You know what age we live in? We live in the internet age. To cut off internet is like to not live in this age. There are Christians who do that. That is the only way to abstain until you overcome that sin. Then you are safe to use it. So abstain means do whatever it takes. Pluck out your eyes, cut off your arm. Whatever it takes to get away, to keep away from that thing. Do you think it's evil? That night when we talked about this, this is so extreme. Now, many of us think it's evil because it's inconvenient to serve God, to worship Him, to obey everything, to do everything His way. In reality, we really think it's evil because it affects my family routine. It's troublesome. It affects my children's sleeping routine. It affects, then after that, it's a lot of trouble to me. After that, it is, or if I come to church, then, I have to rearrange my time. Or if I want to serve God, then, I need to maybe even shift house. You have to ask yourself, why am I not part of things? Whatever it is that you're not willing to, you're basically saying, it is inconvenient to make those changes in my life. And therefore, I choose not to. Many of us choose not to. The thing that you really want to serve in your life, if it is your job, if it is your child's study, if it is your health, many will go through many inconveniences, jump through hoops. They're willing to do that because they're willing to serve that thing. To make some things happen, to serve God, yes, it can be injurious, harmful. Isn't it true? Now, sometimes parents get worried. I spend much time in the church. Well, my children may harm my children. They don't have time to study. But being part of God's people is serving God. Knowing others, loving others, being part. You cannot fulfill the second great commandment if you are not part of God's people. So many of us are willing to love God, and then we don't want to serve the second commandment. So we are not part of church. Being a lively stone, we studied. So don't think this is an Old Testament thing. In the New Testament, God says, now you are supposed to be lively stones. Means you are supposed to be part of the church. Lively stones to build up the spiritual house of God. So if you're not part of, to be part of, it can appear to you harmful. Isn't it true? Now I even remember occasion where one Christian called me and said this, you need to talk to this person in church. I say, about what? This person is spending too much time in church. They say, what do you mean too much time? Goes for prayer meeting, goes for Bible study, takes FEBC course, goes to nursing home. I say, that is a normal Christian life. What do you mean spending too much time? Yeah, but this person should take on more responsibility at work, should do more things at work. And with this kind of thing, means the person will go back on time to go to church. Then I say, well, I think that is okay. Say, no, this person should stay back. Stay back and work very hard and do extra. And then, then that is good. I say, no, I'm not going to talk to the person about that. But it's harmful for this person's career. It's harmful for this person's career. That is the word. Many of us actually think it's evil, harmful to what we should be able to achieve on earth. My child is given a lot of talents, wasted. The word evil is no benefit. Wasted to let my child know God's word rather than know more of schoolwork. Now, I'm not against doing well in school, at work. We are not against those things. But when you feel that that is what you need to serve, to the point where you will put God second, then you have to say that, yeah, it is evil. That is the reality. Serving God is evil to me. That is the reality. Now, what else about thinking is evil? Now, when we went into live streaming, I think many of us began to like it a little too much. Huh? It's very convenient at home. It's very nice at home. Don't need to change, don't need to drive, don't need to pick people to church. And just do it at home. Then after that, immediately it's over. No need to talk to people. And then just start lunch. Then when we can come back, did you feel it was evil? In other words, did you feel now it is troublesome, inconvenient, burdensome? You see, when Joshua said, if you think it is evil, he's talking about all these things. You must remember this. These people, by this time when Joshua was talking to them, they have already finished the major battles and they've been living in the land for quite a few years, enjoying the peace, enjoying the prosperity, enjoying the many good things that God just dumped in their lap. So they are people who have now begun to have gotten used to certain lifestyle, certain comforts, certain conveniences, that now they say to serve God is actually a bit inconvenient, a bit troublesome. We can fall into that. Joshua didn't want to mince words. He simply said, do you think it's evil? Do you think it's evil to come back to church? We had to think very hard whether to leave Livestream on our internet, on our website. Because the temptation is this. When we simply leave it there and you do not need to apply and all that, you will find it is more convenient. The smallest thing that you can find an excuse not to come to church, you will jump on that because it is more convenient. That's all. It is evil to have to make the effort to go to church. That is why we thought very hard before we did it. That is why we rather you apply. Because of this, each time you apply, you have to put your reason, correct? You have to put your reason. And when you have to put your reason, we hope that it will at least convict your heart. You cannot lie, correct? I hope you won't just lie and say, I'm sick when you're not. All right? You woke up late. I'm sick. We hope that at least it will make you think, how can I feel like that? As you're filling the form. No, I should not be like that. God has given us the privilege to come back. How can I be like that? At least you will think about that. Right? Sundays, we leave it on because many of the elderlies, they struggle with all this technology, so we just leave it on there. So when you think of all this, I think many of us begin to think that it is evil. If given a choice, I would rather not follow God's way. That is what it is. So Joshua asked him, now, you have to make a choice. What is your choice? Now, so many of them, they've been enjoying the good life for some time already. Now, if only Joshua did not say all these things. Right? It's the same for you. If only pastor, if only the church did not teach about, like this morning, what does keeping the Sabbath day mean? If only the church did not teach this thing, then I can continue in my way of living, correct? I don't have to obey God this way. So they think evil. Now, Joshua faced many problems that the pastor and that the heads of the home face. The people always think it's evil to obey God. And therefore, whatever they say that is about obeying God, serving, worshiping Him, is evil. It's troublesome. And they grumble and they complain. Please know this. When Joshua said, choose you this day whom you will serve, Joshua doesn't have the authority to give them a choice. Please know that. Huh? Joshua is not saying, all right, God, I ask them, all right, which one they want to choose. It is not that. Joshua is trying to awaken them. They did not have a choice at all. So for Joshua to say that is just simply is a rhetorical statement to them. He has no power to say you can choose not to serve God. So when we learn all these things about God's commandments in BBK and so on, then we have to ask ourselves, do we find it evil to have to obey? You know, I do worry about after all the restrictions are fully lifted, maybe all of us get our jabs, then everything gets lifted and life goes back to really like the pre-COVID days. What is the pre-COVID day like for church? Pre-COVID days like for church is morning worship. Then after that, we go for lunch together. Then we go straight for nursing home, right? The Lord's Day, serving the Lord. Then going for one nursing home from 2 to 3:30. Then jump into the car to the next nursing home, which is about 4 to 5. And then after that, come back. And then go for fellowship dinner together, talk about the day's service, about the Lord. Or if not, then there is afternoon Bible studies. So that is our day, right? But now we have to roster people, correct? Only a certain number of people can go to the homes. Then many of us today, actually after service, we have nothing. We go back. Oh, I'm not on duty, no nursing home duty today, so I go home. What do? Maybe you start to say, it's quite nice to be at home on Sundays and do nothing and to play. Young ones, you used to enjoy that, right? Daddy, go for first one. I want to go for second one as well. Then now you have experience. Actually now Sundays, when I'm not on duty, I can play. For the adults, I can sleep, whatever it is. Now, when things come back to normal, will you think that it is evil? Then we say, all right, now everything back to normal, let's go. Everyone can go. Will you suddenly think it's evil? Now I think maybe I'll go once a month or twice a month. All right, twice a month. But even for the twice a month, I will only go for one nursing home when I used to go to 2. Because now you have begun to think evil. It is evil to serve the Lord. It is evil. It's too troublesome, burdensome, tiring. That is what the people have become. That is why Joshua said, now you've been living here, you've been enjoying yourself and taking things for yourself. So you have begun to think that when I say, serve the Lord, obey only Him, follow only Him, now you suddenly think, this is not nice. This is not good. Now, why do I want to spend some time here? It's because just like Joshua wants to awaken them, today, if we don't make a choice, we like them can also begin to think over time, it is evil. Now that I have children, it is evil, it is troublesome to do this, to do that for God. Now, how do you feel when you look at other Christians in church? They're freer than me. They have less things to do than me. Why is it at camp? You know camp, right? Camp, church camp. It's always that few persons that are very busy. Correct? Then the rest are enjoying camp, fellowshipping, eating, going out, then doing things, go for coffee. And then there's a group of people that's always panicking. This one, that one, that didn't work. And they're always trying to make sure that things run well for the campers. Right? And then people are sleeping, and then camp committee having meeting. People are still sleeping, they are already awake, preparing things and having meeting and discussing what to do for the day. Right? And those of you who are involved in maybe teaching, then you're preparing. While everyone is snoring. Then you begin to think, why me? Why me? We may even complain to others. Every year, the church asks me to do this. Then you begin to think, it's evil to serve the Lord. Why me? Every year is me. Right? How do you feel? So whenever those feelings come up in you, you must begin to say, I am beginning to think it's evil to serve the Lord. Now then, the last example before we move on. To think it's evil to serve the Lord means you find that there's no benefit. It's a waste. That's why it's evil. It's a waste. That is the meaning of the usage in one of his usages. It is a waste. Do you feel that it's a waste of time to serve God? Because, what's the point? I didn't get what I want from God. See, these people, they might begin to think, what's the point? Serve Jehovah, cannot do this, cannot like that, cannot be there. But the gods of the Amorites, they're fine with it, I don't get what I want. Some of us may feel, why I've been so faithful in serving God. How come my child is born with a certain problem, with a certain illness? I didn't get what I want. What's the point of serving God? I wanted this in my life. I served God and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. In the end, God didn't give it to me. What's the point of serving God? Now, that is the meaning of do you think. If you think it is evil to serve the Lord. Many of us, actually, if we are honest and understand what it means evil, we do think it is evil to serve the Lord. But how does Joshua approach this problem? Look further. Look at verse 15. Choose you this day. Now he said, now you make a choice. You think it's evil, right? You think it's evil. Now I want you to think about your choice. Okay? Now, the choice is this. All right, so since you think it's evil, now you choose. Choose you this day whom you will serve. Whether the gods of your fathers serve that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. So you have a choice. Like I said, Joshua is not saying they have a choice. Joshua is being cynical and sarcastic to them. Right? You choose. It's like parents saying this, all right? Daddy, I don't want to take this medicine. Right? It's bitter. It's not nice. I don't like it. I don't want. Then the parents will say, okay. So this is medicine, and this is your fever, and then you feel very sick. Right? You choose. Dad, are you giving them a choice? You're not. You're telling them you are being silly. You're being ridiculous. So when Joshua said, choose you this day, he's asking, what is the alternative? Tell me. Seriously, tell me. You want the other alternative? That is what he's saying to them. So when we begin to think it is evil, then we ask ourselves, what is the alternative? How does he put it? Look here. He says, these gods, the gods on the other side, or the gods of the Amorites. Now, he has just mentioned what happened to their gods. On the other side, talk about Egypt. Look at verse 5. Chapter 24, verse 5. He plagued them. The Egyptian gods had no power to stop God's plaguing of their people. Then look at verse 6 and 7. God did things to their people and covered them in the sea and killed them. Their gods could not help them. So the gods on the other side of the flood, they had no power at all. And then what about the Amorites? Look at verse 8. And I brought you into the land of the Amorites, which dwelt on the other side of Jordan, and they fought with you, and I gave them into your hand. God says, I gave them. The gods of the Amorites, of the mountain of the land, they were useless to help the Amorites. I gave them to you. And not only that, I destroyed them. No, I gave them, but maybe their God is still quite powerful. I did not manage to destroy them. No, God said, I destroyed them. And he gave example after examples. Now he said, are you serious? I have just recited to you, their gods are no gods at all. Their gods are useless in protecting or providing for them. It was always our God that was victorious. Are you seriously thinking that it's worthwhile serving their God? And if going after their God conflicts with going after Jehovah, you seriously think it is a choice? You must be out of your mind. That is what he's saying. This is not a choice. To choose that is irrational. It's illogical. That is what he's saying. Now you think about this choice. So whenever we think it is evil, we ask ourselves, what is the other choice that I want? And you will begin to find that it is silly. Have you seen the outcome of these people? I have just told you about that outcome. Are you seriously thinking it's worthwhile going after gods? And because it conflicts with serving Jehovah, you find that it's not good? You find it's evil to serve Jehovah? Now please turn to Romans chapter 1. You say, is this just for Old Testament people? Romans chapter 12. Romans chapter 12. Romans chapter 12, verse 1. I say, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. God repeats the same principle in the New Testament. Now, this word reasonable, it simply means it is the most logical and most expected thing to do. That's the meaning of reasonable. Chapters 1 to 12, Paul have just explained to them that God saved them, bought them with his precious blood. They belong to him. They owe everything to him. And this God is a wonderful, powerful, loving, infinitely good God. He has just spent chapter 1 to chapter 11 talking about what God is to them. Just like Joshua spent all the time talking about what God is and what God has done to the people. And here Paul then at this point, after chapter 11, he says, now when you think about all this, it's only logical. It's only logical to serve him. And this serve here is worship, follow after. It's only logical. And he said, present your bodies a living sacrifice. Means it is to be a choice that is totally and wholly. My whole being, my whole flesh and spirit belongs to him and is for him. That is the meaning of present your bodies. My whole body is a living sacrifice to him, holy and acceptable. So it is the same concept in the New Testament. The Christian who thinks it is evil to obey and follow God, to bring up our family according to the ways of God, and it's troublesome. What is your other option? I ask you. What is your other option? Your only other option is bringing up the way of the world. Your only other option is, well, if I don't go to church, what's my option? Stay at home, watch TV, sleep. What is your other option? That is the question. I don't want to do things for God when approached. Then what is the other option? Well, spend my time serving the world. Spend my time playing. Spend my time enjoying the pleasures of sins of this world. What is your option? That is the point here. Not only it is illogical to having seen what God has done and who God is, and all the gods are false. It is illogical for you to even think that you can depend on these gods and that they are better than Jehovah and they give you what you want. It is silly to think like that. So when Joshua presented this to them, they say, this is an irrational view. The only life that is worth living, the only life that is assured of good success, of spiritual outcome, is only the life of wholehearted service to Jehovah. You have seen the outcome of these who worship false gods. God will judge them one day, eventually. And you saw with your own eyes. You are the generation we saw God's judgment. God was merciful to them for a long time. They still thought that the Amorites' God are better than Jehovah. They refused to repent. And even when they came to the land, they refused to accept. They still want to fight the Israelites. They would not repent. Now I speak to some of you who are not believers yet. In your heart, maybe you think it is evil to believe in Jehovah. I want to live my life. To become a Christian means I have to give up things. Let me ask you, your choice, just like Joshua is asking the people, what is your alternative? Your only alternative is, yes, continue to believe in the gods of this world, which are no gods, and end up in hell forever and ever and ever. That is your only other alternative. Why would you not choose? It's illogical not to choose a God that's infinitely good, who loved you and died for sinners, for his people. He died for them, shed his blood. There's nothing that you should ever doubt him. Even when God says, don't do this, don't do that, it's always for your good. Always for your good. And if you're a parent, you understand that. Your child do not understand. Even when you do something good for your child, they still are doubtful of you. Why does daddy don't let me have a phone? Why does daddy don't let me play in the middle of the road? Why does daddy don't let me run around in the rain? I don't understand. You doubt. They doubt you. But you ask your child, what is your other alternative? You want to go out and be killed by the car? By playing in the middle of the road? What is your alternative? What is your alternative, unbeliever? Now when the Christian begins to even say this, and with this I close. You may even think it is evil and say, serve God means to live under his authority, means to belong to him, obey his every command, follow after him, do only his bidding and his pleasure, and everything for his glory alone. And you think that is evil. I fear that some in our hearts even say this. No, I didn't ask to be in covenant with God, God want to save me, he want to save me. Oh, don't expect me to live like that. I'm a Christian. A parent asked me once, no, what if my child do not believe in covenantal living? So what do you mean? Means covenant means you live in obedience to God, and he will care for you. He will take care of you. And there is no choice. You choose not to live in covenant with God, there's only chastisement. As long as you're a child of God, it will be like that. But my child doesn't believe in this covenant thing. My child believes that I just need to be saved, and I don't need to respond in covenant to God. Means respond in obeying him, loving him, serving him, and living as his people. My child don't believe in that. My child believes as long as I'm saved, God wants me to live my life for myself. And what if my child begin to think, no, but I didn't ask God to save me. I didn't ask him to be in covenant with me. He wants to, he can save me, but I want to live my own life. Now, it's like a child asking a father, telling a father, who toiled, who suffered, who sacrificed, who helped and provided all the while, And then the child say, and then the father say, now listen to me. And then the child say, why must I listen to you? I didn't ask to be your child, you know. It's the same statement. I didn't ask to be your child, you know. In fact, there is one case, this man sued the parents. And he said, I didn't ask to be their child. And he sued the parents for giving birth to him. Can you imagine this kind of lawsuits? I didn't ask to be born. And he says, it's ridiculous. That is what Joshua is saying. It is irrational for you to say, to even think it is evil. Why? I didn't ask to be saved. Why must I live according to the covenantal life? That is how we think, I think, in many of our hearts. But we have to make a choice. What is the meaning of making a choice? What are the obstacles to making this choice? And it must be a personal choice. That is what we will consider next week. Because I said, make a choice. Now that you understood what it means to be, I think it's evil to serve the Lord, and it's irrational. Then I say, I want to make a choice. What does it mean to make a choice? God willing, we see that next week. Let us rise to sing the closing hymn. 428, 428.